Ladies and gentlemen, in this RedGamingTech.com video, it is the 3rd of January, and this is actually the second I've recorded this video because I was a twit and had my microphone on mute because I was playing Call of Duty. So yeah, anyway, today's deals are lackluster. I'll just come out and say it straight away. And pretty much every one of them has been on before. I'm going to come out and say it right now that if you are looking for one title to buy and one title alone, and you don't have much money, just go ahead and buy Bastion. It's a good game. It basically tells the story of the world that was destroyed, and by the way, there was a demo of this, and basically you are tasked to save it. I must say that this is done excellently, very beautiful animation and so on. If you're a fan of old 16-bit action RPGs or the 32-bit action RPGs, such as say Soleo, Story of 4 and so forth, you're going to like this game. Very cool, worth getting. You'll have to excuse the fact I'm blasting through these titles. We've been through pretty much all of them before. Football Manager 2013, one of those titles I can honestly say I've never had any interest in. It does support some drastically improved features, however, so I'm told, such as a much improved 3D match engine, and goodness knows how many other features. This is one of those titles where if you can get into it around 5 o'clock in the morning, you're going to realise you've got work the next day. For those of us like myself, you probably are not going to really care one jot. It does have a demo, and I'd recommend checking out the demo, if only to figure out if it's going to be your cup of tea. Interestingly, I do know people who are not into football, or soccer, depending on what you want to call it, who actually like this game, and I'm not one of them. So yeah, anyway, next up, I Am Alive. I actually disagree with the Metacritic score on this title. I have covered it on RGT, and I'd recommend you check out the video. It's post-apocalyptic, so not exactly anything new here, in terms of storyline, but it tells it fairly well. I do find it quite laughable though that fully configurable keyboard, mouse and gamepad controls are a feature apparently. Nevertheless, it is pretty cool. There is easy mode, which actually allows you to have infinite retries and slightly softer, more forgiving introduction, and this game does actually have quite a hard difficulty mode. It's not quite as unforgiving as say Dark Souls, but it is fairly brutal. I'd recommend you check out this game, however, in my opinion it's pretty interesting. I quite like the way the story is told. It's not flawless, but I disagree with the Metacritic score. I think it's a bit better than what they're letting on. Thief franchise. I've talked about this just recently, but nevertheless, 75% off or £4.74. You get 3 titles for this. The best one is actually Thief Gold, which is the original. Thief Gold had a few issues, predominantly in the later half of the game, when the supernatural elements start to come in. I have nothing against supernatural elements, and generally speaking, I welcome them in games. However, I think the problem is, up until that point, you were fighting humans, and you were stealthy, and then this came along, and you were just like, this doesn't really seem to fit too well. Nevertheless, Thief 2 The Metal Age was pretty well received as well, and Deadly Shadows isn't bad. People just felt it suffered from this horrible disease called tonsillitis, and there didn't seem to be much of a cure for it. It was a reasonable game and all. It just wasn't up to the standards of previous Thief titles. And I haven't actually played much of it, but I'm going by quite a lot of opinions of people I do know. As I said, it's not a bad game. It just didn't seem to quite work as well as the previous titles, but I'd still recommend checking out the entire package. Civilization, 5. I'd go with the Game of the Year edition of this actually, for $7.49, which comes with a god-awful amount of expansions. There's a reason I've not actually played this, and it's fairly simple. I never really got into the way the game handles strategy, in other words movement and that type of thing. But this is one of those titles where you have to worry about diplomacy, creating your cities, and it's very cool if you can get into it. This is going to be a lot like Football Manager, one of those titles where you're going to realise it's 3 o'clock in the morning and holy shit, you need to be up early. It's a very cool game, and I would recommend checking it out. It's not flawless, in that you're going to have to be of a certain mindset to take games slowly, but if you can, it's pretty awesome. Last one, I can honestly say I've not played this. I used to be a massive fan of Theme Park and those type of titles back in the day. There is a demo, however, of Tropico 4, and it's available 80% off. It's a bit of an odd thing actually. You can actually get Tropico 4 and the Primer official strategy guide for exactly the same price. So in other words, you get the plus strategy guide for exactly the same price as with the game itself. I don't know what that's about. I can only assume it's a bug. It scores fairly well on Metacritic, but, well, your opinions may vary. It doesn't look bad. It just never really got over me. The graphics are actually fairly mixed bag. The game seems to do water effects really well, but in the actual cities themselves, I believe that sums up my feelings. There's a couple of other demo games available. I'm not going to go that heavily into them because I've talked about them many times. The only one I haven't really talked about that heavily is the Fallen Enchantress. This game is a strategy RPG and is very slow paced. I was originally going to cover this for RGT, but it turned out that I really need to put a lot of time into the game to kind of figure out how to do that, and I just didn't really get time. And by the time I actually, did have the time to do it, the game was pretty old, so I thought there's no real way to actually cover it with meaningfulness. Anyway, it's a very cool game. It looks very interesting, and I've got to say the storyline itself does look pretty cool. It also has a map pack available for $2. Well, that's 50% off, mind you. The game itself is also $12.49. It doesn't have a demo, unfortunately. Boo! I think every game should be mandatory to have a demo on Steam, personally, but that's just my opinion. The game is, as I've said before, slow-paced, and if you're into the slow-paced slow-paced strategy RPGs, you're probably going to be interested. If you're not, if you're interested in PvP, you're probably going to be less interested. It's not, say, StarCraft 2 level of speed. It's going to be a little more slower paced and so on. It does look fairly interesting, however, from the little bit I did play. Next one, and I will say it's not a bad game straight off the bat. It's Blood Bowl. This is another title I was actually going to cover for RGT, but I realised I was going to be absolutely bloody awful at the darn thing. It's based somewhat, as far as I can understand, on American football, but uses orcs and goblins and goodness knows what else instead. It does look kind of a cool game, and I'm not going to say that I would not have enjoyed it, but it wasn't my thing when I played it briefly. And any game that I'm automatically not feeling, I'll try to avoid reviewing because I don't like to put bias in there. And besides, I have to buy the bloody games anyway, so if I'm not going to have a prayer of liking it, Anyway, as I was saying, this isn't a terrible game, I just couldn't really get into it. I don't know that many people who actually owned it or played it. The one who did say it said it was pretty decent, but I'd suggest you do your own research. Once again, there's no demo of this Chaos Edition. Let's just check for the Legendary Edition. There's no demo of that either. So whether you want to risk this or not is up to you. It's actually fairly weird because originally when they put the demo up, or the deal up, should I say, it was 100% off, although you can actually buy the darn game. So pricing error on their part. This was Age of Empires 3. Very cool game. I could say that I haven't actually played an Age of Empires, which I don't really know how, considering I've been a PC gamer for goodness knows how long. It was released in 2009, so yeah, fairly old now, about 3 years. Very cool looking game, just couldn't really get into it personally. Would recommend checking it out though for those of you who are interested. It does score fairly well and is a classic. Last one, Serious Sam. Serious Sam 3. Very awesome game. If only for the graphics options. In my opinion, all PC games should have that option as a standard. It's also fairly noteworthy in that it does have local co-op. Split screen, may I add, on the same system. This is actually for the PC version. The game does have one or two small issues, predominantly with the level design, but the game itself is quite fun, particularly with friends. The suicide enemies are bastards, however, just as a warning. The game is fun, it's not perfect, predominantly the level design, but it is quite a cool game and could be worth it. I just find the level design a little bit repetitive and can be a little bit confusing. I did a brief look at other deals for you. There isn't that many really to speak of, to be honest. The best deals I could find were on Gamersgate. The best one was Legacy of Kain Defiance Collection, which isn't terrible, but $4.76. Only 3 games in that though, not all of them. And War of the Roses, which I've mentioned before, looks okay but not exactly my thing. So yeah, they've also still got their other deals, by the way, such as Dragon Age and so forth, so it could be worth checking out. Anyway, that's about it. Today's deals were somewhat lackluster, if I'm honest. Hopefully we're going to get a good couple of days remaining, but who the hell knows. Anyway, hopefully you guys have enjoyed the video, and bye for now. Oh, by the way, if you do want me to briefly summarise the video, I'd say best deals, providing you haven't already purchased them: Bastion, I Am Alive, and probably Thief. The other ones, they're good, but weren't my thing, but those are the ones I'd personally recommend. Anyway, there's no bad games actually on today's deal, I must say. Anyway, hopefully you've enjoyed the video, and bye for now.